Welcome to Unbound, the podcast with Beth Curry, author, storyteller, and survivor. This is where books meet real life, where Beth reads chapters from her work and breaks free from the traditional audiobook format, diving deeper into the personal experiences, lessons, and liberation behind every page. Nothing is off limits. Let's get unbound.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Unbound Season 2, The Weight of Truth. I'm Beth Curry, and today I'm going to read and talk about one of the most painful and unexpected parts of transformation, and that's losing relationships along the way, because it happens. This is Chapter 13 in the book, called Family Reactions and Jealous Friends. Nobody warns you that losing weight can cost you relationships. When I started my journey, I thought everyone would be happy for me. I thought my family and friends would cheer me on, celebrate my progress, and support my transformation. I thought the people who loved me would want to see me happy and healthy. Well, wasn't I naive as fuck? Here's what actually happened. Some people were genuinely supportive and proud of my progress, but others got weird. Really weird. No, I'm serious. Legitimately weird. The weirdness came in different flavors, but it all tasted like jealousy mixed with their own insecurities about what my changes meant for them. Some people started making comments disguised as concern. You're getting too skinny. I hope you're being healthy about this. You look gaunt. Are you sure you're not overdoing it? These comments came when I was still over 200 pounds, still medically overweight, still dealing with loose skin and lipedema and all the physical consequences of having been so large. But suddenly people who had never expressed concern about my health when I was slowly dying were worried that I was too thin. Get the fuck out of here. Other people started sabotaging my efforts in subtle ways. They'd insist on eating at restaurants where there were no healthy options. They'd bring my favorite junk foods to my house as a treat. They'd pressure me to have just one of whatever they were eating. They'd roll their eyes when I ordered a salad or passed on dessert. Don't get me wrong here. With everything I'm teaching you about saying yes and being able to get healthier and even losing weight while including literally everything you love, yes, even bread and wine, that isn't my point here. I'm simply sharing what others were doing without knowing those things or that I was practicing them. The most hurtful reaction came from people I had always been willing to help, people who had watched me struggle with my weight for years, who had heard me talk about wanting to lose weight, and who knew how miserable I had been. Instead of celebrating my success, they got resentful. I started to see something I hadn't expected. My weight loss was forcing other people to confront their own choices. My transformation was making them uncomfortable because it proved that change was possible, and they weren't ready to admit they could change too. Here's how the déjà vu was probably working for the people around me. The fact I had lost over 200 pounds and was maintaining my weight loss thus far. Their thoughts, if she can do it, why can't I? She thinks she's better than me now. She's going to judge me for being fat. This changes everything about our relationship. How those thoughts probably made them feel? Jealous, insecure, defensive, and threatened. Their actions, subtle sabotage, backhanded compliments, withdrawal from the relationship, or trying to pull me back into old patterns. The result, strain on relationships that had previously been comfortable. The hardest part was realizing that some of these relationships had been built on shared dysfunction. We had bonded over being fat together, complaining about our bodies together, eating our feelings together. When I changed the rules of that game, the foundation of those relationships cracked. I had been the fat friend who made everyone else feel better about themselves. I had been the one they could count on to always be bigger, always be struggling, always be available to commiserate about how hard it was to lose weight and how unfair the world was to fat people. When I stopped being that person, they didn't know how to relate to me anymore. Some people accused me of becoming obsessed with weight loss, even though I was just doing what I needed to do to find and maintain my best health. Some people said I had changed and wasn't fun anymore, even though the only thing that had changed was that I wasn't using food and body hatred as bonding activities. And P.S., I became more fun. Some people started treating me like I was fragile or high maintenance because I had food boundaries. Some people acted like my weight loss was a personal attack on their decision to stay the same. I didn't judge anyone at all, not once. I knew where they were and what they felt. I had been there, and if they had asked, I was always willing to help. I never offered it because for me, that was always really damn insensitive. But if they wanted to hear what I was doing, I would happily share. The most painful reactions came from family members who had watched me nearly die and should have been the most supportive of my efforts to live. Instead, some of them seemed more comfortable with me when I was sick and struggling than when I was healthy and thriving. I think this happened because when I was fat and miserable, I needed them. I was grateful for any attention, any inclusion, any kindness. I never challenged anyone or made waves because I felt like I had to earn my place in the group by being the accommodating fat girl who was just happy to be included. But when I got healthy and confident, I stopped being so grateful for scraps. I started expecting to be treated well. I started having standards and boundaries. I stopped settling for relationships where I had to diminish myself to make other people comfortable. And I became way more sociable. My dance card was always full. And some people didn't like that version of me. More people than I thought didn't like that version of me. Here's what I learned. Not everyone wants you to succeed. Some people are more comfortable with you when you're struggling because it makes them feel better about their own struggles. Some people need you to stay small, literally and figuratively, because your growth forces them to examine their own lives. This doesn't make them evil people. It makes them human people dealing with their own insecurities and fears. But it also doesn't mean you have to shrink yourself back down to make them comfortable. You can have compassion for why people react poorly to your success without letting their reactions derail your progress. You can understand that their jealousy is about them, not about you, without taking responsibility for managing their feelings. You can love people and still maintain boundaries that protect your health and your growth. The people who truly love you will adjust to the new you. They might need time to process the changes, and that's okay. You need it too. But they'll ultimately want you to be healthy and happy, even if it means the relationship looks different than it used to. The people who can't adjust, who continue to sabotage or undermine or resent your progress, those people are showing you that their connection to you are based on your dysfunction, not your well-being. And as painful as it is to realize, you're better off without relationships that require you to stay sick to maintain them. I lost some friends during my transformation. People who I thought would be with me forever couldn't handle the version of me who was healthy and confident and unwilling to bond over self-hatred and even gossip anymore. But I also deepened relationships with people who celebrated my growth. I attracted new friends who knew me as the person I had become, not the person I used to be. I learned to surround myself with people who wanted me to thrive, not people who needed me to struggle. The relationships you lose when you get healthy weren't actually serving you when you were sick. You just couldn't see it because you were too grateful for any connection to be picky about the quality of that connection. When you raise your standards for how you treat yourself, you automatically raise your standards for how others treat you. And some people won't meet those standards. That's not your problem to solve. Your job is to keep growing, keep thriving, keep becoming the person you're meant to be. Your job is not to manage other people's insecurities about your success. The right people will celebrate your transformation. The wrong people will resent it. Both reactions give you valuable information about who deserves a place in your new life. Real talk questions. Who in your life seems more comfortable with you when you're struggling? Think about the people who give you the most attention when you're having problems, but seem less interested when things are going well. These relationships might be built on your dysfunction, not your well-being. What relationships in your life are built around shared complaints or unhealthy behaviors? Bonding over hating your bodies, overeating together, complaining about your lives or other people in them. If you removed these activities, what would be left of these relationships? How do you feel when someone else in your circle makes positive changes? Be honest. When a friend loses weight, gets a promotion, or improves their life, what's your first reaction? Understanding your own triggers can help you have compassion for others' reactions to your changes. Relationship audit exercise. Divide the people in your life into 3 categories. Supporters. People who celebrate your victories, people who encourage your healthy choices, people who want to see you thrive, people who adapt to the new you without making it about them. That's category 1. Category 2, neutral. People who don't comment much on your changes. People who treat you the same regardless of your size. People whose relationship with you isn't affected by your transformation. Category 3, saboteurs. You better not be in this group. People who make comments about you being too thin or obsessed. People who pressure you to eat unhealthily. People who seem resentful of your progress. People who try to pull you back into old patterns. Now ask, how much energy am I spending on category 3 people? What would happen if I invested that energy in category 1 people instead? Boundary setting scripts. Practice these responses to common sabotage attempts. When someone says you're getting too skinny, say, I'm working on reaching a healthy weight for my body. When someone pressures you to eat something you don't want, say, no thanks, I'm satisfied with what I have. When someone brings you junk food as a treat, say, I appreciate the thought, but I'm not eating that right now. Or you can eat it. That's up to you and what you decide, and you should never feel bad for it. When someone says you've changed, say, I hope so. I've worked really hard to change. When someone accuses you of being obsessed with health, say, taking care of my body and health is a priority for me right now. The key is to respond calmly, briefly, and without justifying your choices or managing their feelings. Support system upgrade. Actively cultivate relationships that support your growth. Join communities of people on similar journeys like fitness groups, health-focused meetups, or online communities. Deepen relationships with existing supporters by spending more time with people who celebrate your progress. Be the support you want to receive by celebrating other people's healthy changes and growth. Set clear boundaries with saboteurs without trying to change their minds or win their approval. Remember that you can love people from a distance if being close to them threatens your progress. And don't forget, this doesn't have to be forever. You don't have to dump people entirely. You can choose to take a break while you focus on your healing. Truth bomb. Not everybody will be happy about your transformation, and that's not your problem to solve. Some people are more comfortable with you when you're struggling because it makes them feel better about their own struggles. You can have compassion for their insecurities without letting their reactions derail your progress. You can love people without shrinking yourself to make them comfortable. You can understand their jealousy without taking responsibility for it. The relationships you lose when you get healthy weren't actually serving you when you were sick. The people who truly love you will adjust to the new you. The people who can't adjust are showing you that their connection to you is based on your dysfunction and not your well-being. Your job is to keep growing, keep thriving, keep becoming who you're meant to be. Your job is not to manage other people's feelings about your success. Surround yourself with people who want to see you win. Distance yourself from people who need to see you lose. The right people will celebrate your transformation. Let them. So you were getting too skinny comments when I was still over 200 pounds. That shit was wild. I was still medically overweight. I still had loose skin everywhere. I was dealing with the lipedema in my legs. I was nowhere near too thin. Like, wow. But people, who had never said a word about my health when I was nearly 400 pounds and literally Googling suicide methods, those same people were suddenly concerned that I was overdoing it. Please. It wasn't actually about my health, it was about their discomfort with my transformation. My weight loss was forcing them to confront their own choices, and they didn't like that. It made them uncomfortable. And the hardest realization in this whole thing was that some of my relationships had been built on shared dysfunction. So I had this one friendship and, I thought it was a lifer kind of a situation. We, ate a lot together. We drank a lot together. We complained a lot together. We gossiped a lot together. There was so much gossip. It was awful. A lot of talking about other people in her world and in mine. And I just realized, as I started to get healthier and healthier, how unhealthy that behavior was. And I know I was doing it, it was a shared bonding experience, but it was completely negative. It was nothing positive, nothing at all. And at the end of 2016, I walked out of her house and never saw her again. I just decided at that point that enough was enough, and that was it. It was just too negative, that relationship and the things, and I knew because she was gossiping about me. Like I knew she was gossiping to me about other people. So certainly I know she was gossiping about me to her other friends because they all, at some point came at me and, she was the only source of the information they were gathering. I've talked about that before. Not going to get into it now. It's 10 years over and I'm over it. Hopefully, she's moved on to healthier relationships too. Anyway, so we bonded, some of these relationships over the wrong things. And when I decided that wasn't working for me anymore, the foundation cracked. So I knew it wasn't a real friendship. Not just that one that I just talked about, but other ones as well. And then these people, the people who stuck around got really resentful, I was always willing to help people if they wanted it, but, they acted like I had personally betrayed them by turning my life around. The accusations of being obsessed with weight loss, that's just projection. I wasn't obsessed. I was committed, and I was doing what I needed to maintain my health. But to people who weren't willing to do that work themselves, it looked like obsession, of course. And that I changed and wasn't fun anymore. That's also projection. The only thing that changed was I stopped using food and body hatred as a bonding activity. That's it. And my friends who do matter told me I became more fun because I had more energy and more confidence and more willingness to try new things and do new things and explore new things. But to people who only knew how to connect through that shared misery, that looked like I wasn't fun anymore. And then the family reactions, those were the hardest, I think, They were more comfortable with me when I was sick and struggling because when I was fat and miserable, I needed them. I was grateful for those scraps and I never challenged anyone or rocked the boat. And then I got healthy and confident and I stopped being so grateful for minimal effort. And I started, creating boundaries and people didn't like it. So, oh well, you're family, but you know what? I can't spend as much time with you because your negativity kind of drags me down and I don't really need that. I love you to death and I will spend occasional time with you, but not as much as we used to do. I respond calmly to people, negative people. I don't justify, I don't explain, I don't try to manage their feelings. I just state my boundary and move on. No thanks. I'm satisfied with what I have. No thanks. I'm busy, whatever. Those are complete sentences. No thanks is a complete sentence. What else can I talk about? You can love people from a distance, what it's saying. You don't have to completely cut everyone off, just take a break while you're focusing on certain things and you can limit contact. You can love them and still protect yourself. It's most important that you protect yourself. Not everybody's going to be happy about your transformation and that's not your problem. That's their problem. And the relationships that you lose when you get healthy weren't serving you when you were sick. You just couldn't see it because you were too grateful for any connection to be picky about quality. The right people will celebrate the hell out of you. I've got a couple of people like that in my life. And the wrong people will resent it. And they won't like the people who are celebrating you either. Believe me. Both those reactions, the good and the bad, give you information about who deserves a place in your life, who deserves your energy. Surround yourself with the good people, the ones who want to see you win, and distance yourself from the people who need to see you lose or the people who just sit and gossip and commiserate and just talk about really negative and shitty things. Like that's just not healthy at all. Let the right people in and let the wrong people go. And once you let them go, once they're gone, keep them gone because, they don't serve any purpose in your space. Before I go, if you want to discuss this episode with others, including me, others who get it, there's a Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. All my content is free and always will be. If you want to support the production costs, though, I've got a coffee account at ko-fi.com/unbound podcast where you can contribute any amount once or monthly. You can also purchase manuscripts if you want to do read along because I'm not actually selling physical published books anymore. I'm selling my manuscripts for people if they want them, especially for books like this particular one where a lot of things don't translate well on podcast, but do better in print. Those are available. And I do accept e-transfer or PayPal just to avoid fees, for possibly you, but definitely me. Just reach out for details or check out the show notes. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Unbound with Beth Curry. Join the conversation in the Facebook group or visit author.bethcurry.com. Want to support the show? Head to ko-fi.com/unbound podcast. Until next time, stay unbound.